there definitely was a timeline where I could have been dropped. Like,
Yeah.
in my opinion anyway. I don't know how close it was, but let's say a top solo was available, like maybe they would have gone with me instead of Liam. But um, like I was told slightly after the decision was made, and it was just like a lot to process because I still felt like we could fix a lot of those issues that were coming up, but I also understood that change is correct, and all those years of not making changes led to failure, and there's no more room to fail.
In this episode, our guest is going to be Nika. For those of you who don't know who Nika is, he's a Smite professional player and he's a professional content creator for Smite. Nika actually just won the last World's Championship, the Smite World Championship, Season 10. It was the very last one for Smite 1 before we move on to Smite 2. So it's a really, really exciting talk. We're going to talk about Smite 2. We're going to talk about Nika's win at Worlds, and he did it with the Jade Dragons. So we're also going to talk about his struggles and the Jade Dragons' struggles throughout the season, why they need to replace Vote for Vaporish Coast and all that really, really good stuff. So I hope you guys enjoy this podcast, and let's get right into it. So we actually just had the Smite 2 Alpha last weekend. And it seemed like a lot of people really, really enjoyed it. What were your thoughts on it?
So I've had a lot of time to like reflect on it and like talk about it on stream. I think my overall take is just for an alpha, I think it's in a really good spot. I understand the direction they want to take the game into, and I think it's different enough from Smite 1 to catch a new audience whilst also keeping like all the old players entertained. I do think that the game still has some pacing issues. I think like it's a little heavy and slow when you compare it to how fluid Smite 1 is, but I think overall with how transparent they've been with like the development process and like open to feedback, I think that with some more time, I think the game will be in a good spot. But I enjoyed it. I think for an alpha, I like kept my expectations pretty low, and they did surpass it. I thought the game was very playable and like no server issues, no game breaking bugs. Honestly, yeah, I thought it was solid.
Yeah, and were you, by the way, what was your frame rate on that? Because I was getting like 45 FPS.
I well, luckily I have a crazy PC, so I was above like 100 the whole time. But the optimization is definitely not great for
Yeah,
now,
yeah. Above
which is weird
100 though.
because I played like we've had the friends and family testing, and like on a previous build I had even better FPS. So like it's kind of weird how it like got worse when it was ready for like public alpha. But
Mhm.
maybe that's just like some development stuff that's causing that. I'm sure they'll figure it out over time.
Yeah, maybe like because they expanded out the servers possibly.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe some like the Lumen stuff is the real FPS killer, right? Like the new Unreal 5 lighting and stuff. So they're probably just gonna tweak that stuff.
Yeah, it actually, I thought it looked pretty nice. Although there were a few people in my chat that they were telling me like, so I've heard a lot of mixed reviews on the alpha so
Yeah.
far. Some people were like, "Oh, it looks AI generated," and yeah, yeah, I've actually had some people tell me that. I'm like, okay, interesting. But some people obviously compare it to like predecessor type graphics, and I think that's just because it's maybe made on Unreal 5.
Yeah.
Did
Uh,
you find it like felt clunky at all, or?
I'd actually say like I've played maybe like 15 hours of Pred on stream and a little bit off. I'd actually say like Pred felt a little clunkier. I don't know whether that's like the intention of the gameplay. Like maybe they want it to feel like there's like both dev teams are kind of going for this like everything has more weight to it, like everything visually looks heavier and stuff. But like I don't really know if that's what you want in like these third person MOBAs. I feel like Smite 1 has survived this long because the gameplay's fluid, fast paced, and being able to chain stuff together with your teammates or even by yourself is the thing that's selling the game in my opinion. And like this new like approach everyone is going with, like especially on Pred, I felt this where it's like really slow and it's almost like there's like a second after every ability where like you gotta chain it together. Like I'm not sure if that's really gonna stick with a lot of people, but visually, um, I do think Pred looks better right now. But I mean, it's in beta, it's pre-used assets from years ago. It should look better. I think it's kind of incorrect to compare the two. Hi-Rez is having to like start from scratch with like, oh, this is what it was like in Smite 1, but they gotta do everything by hand. But like, I like Pred. I think it's doing well. I think it has potential. But I think people comparing it too closely to Smite are not really. I feel like they're like misunderstanding like the competition between the two. Like they're very different games, and I think it's important to like understand that pretty much.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Was there anything that sort of stood out to you while you were playing, or like any changes that you really enjoyed so far? I know we're just in the alpha,
Uh,
super early, but
I think the builds are super interesting. I think the one thing Smite 1 lacked for pretty much the whole time it's been out is like real build diversity. I think people kind of get baited by like the illusion of choice when like, oh, boots are removed, we have an extra item, but like it's still gonna get to a point where like every character in every role has one build for like ability based and another build for AA based, and the same for mages, like poke, bust, blah blah blah. But with this approach of like mixed scaling and active items and just a lot more like interesting ways to build, and having no starter item restrictions or anything like that, no boots again, which like is relevant I think in Smite 2. Just having 6 slots where you can actually flesh out a build specific to how you want a character to be played, I think is going to make a big difference, and add a lot of depth. And then obviously, yeah, I love that some characters are scaling with both strength and intelligence. I think even boring characters like Sun, I think it's cool that like now he's mixed. Like now you can find a way to be like a one-shot Sun, maybe with like Polyus. Like I don't know, but like it just adds so much more depth to the game potentially, and like I really hope that they're not scared of like going to the extreme like the devs, and just go crazy with it. Like you have 100+ characters to work with. There's so many unique scaling options you can tweak, and I think that the best they can do is just go crazy with that stuff.
yeah, I kind of like the complexity that they added to it because I feel like out of all the MOBAs, that you can think of, Smite, League of
Yeah,
Legends, Dota, Smite's definitely on the simpler end of it. But
yeah, definitely.
yeah, but like the thing that really grabs people's attention, of course, is the third person POV, the
Yeah.
mechanics feels amazing. So
The PvP itself. So like, why not add all these new systems from other MOBAs to add an extra layer of depth to the game, which will definitely make it stand out like above any other MOBA.
yeah, definitely. What about like the solo lane in particular? Where was there?
Ooh. Well,
Yeah,
I didn't like that. I'll be honest.
really,
I'm
really.
I'm a big hater of the Warhorn and also the gold pad, but like that's in every lane. I think they're like really trying to like force this interact button to be used. It's like something new, so I guess they're like putting it all over the map, but Warhorn is just like a more boring version of like a beacon, and the gold pad is a more boring version of Coup, is how I'm looking at it.
Hmm.
Like, which is maybe is like a very narrow-minded view, I guess, but I really enjoyed the objective. Like, Coup has been great. It's been here for 6 years. No one has complained. It's just fun. Both solo laners get to contest it. It's never like an unfair objective. It's completely balanced. It's just a DPS race, and it also gives you more damage for the lane with like the little AoE thing. The Warhorn is just tedious. It's like I interact with it. Okay, now this guy's gonna interact with it like whilst I'm clearing the wave. Okay, now I have to walk back and press another button. It's just these objectives have been given like an unnecessary step, that doesn't really add depth or strategy. It's just annoying. Like I have to go and interact with this because I don't know. It's just for no reason. And I prefer objectives where if you're giving global gold to your team, you have to fight over something, not just stand
Right.
on a pad. Um, so I think if they take that feedback, because I know a lot of other people said it as well, uh, I think they could keep the map like a lot more similar to Smite 1 when it comes to like how the objectives are done, and people would still be happy. But I do like the gold and FG changes with like how they scale or like they stack up and give you a bigger reward. I think that's something we've needed because it adds an extra like end game option instead of just FG.
Yeah, yeah. It like provides extra buffs, so you're getting more rewarded off just getting the same
Yeah.
objective multiple times. The one thing, and I do like that as well. I like that change a lot. The one thing though that, and I know it's just an alpha, I kind of hope that they bring into later versions, maybe like the beta of the game,
Mm.
are just like some more objectives, more than just Fire Giant
Yeah,
and Gold
yeah, for
Fury.
sure. Yeah, the map felt a little empty.
Yeah.
It's also like it does suck to just keep saying it's an alpha, so that's why. But like we kind of have to. But I mean, like, yeah, the games are like really low quality if you didn't play customs. So like everyone was kind of headless chickens. Like everyone's just running it in lanes, or, like fighting over nothing.
Yeah.
And like in a MOBA, you need a purpose, right? Like right
Mhm.
now we have Baldyman was something new that was added, or you have Pyro, or you have Gold, or you have FG, and then you have all the buffs as well. And it's like right now it feels like you're fighting over nothing. You one shot every XP camp, you interact with gold pads, and then you just do Gold Fury FG. And like you said, I definitely think the map is a little empty, and I do hope that with more development time, they'll look into that and definitely give us something like Pyro at least, because I think that's again been a very good buff and camp for the like as many years as it's been in every iteration.
Oh yeah, definitely. What? By the way, sidetracking real quick. Were you more of a fan of the Pyromancer, like the speed buff out of base, or the Portal Demon?
Mm, I think the speed. I think the portal is like it is just unbalanced. Like it's
Yeah.
impossible to. It gives you way too much value, and it's just a lot less fun when you're like dealing with it. Like, oh, they just get the TP here for no reason. Like, you win a poke trade and that guy just teleports back. Like, it's a lot more frustrating than just a big MS buff.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So like going back to the active system that we were talking about earlier,
Yeah,
what are your overall thoughts on it, personally?
I
And
I think
yeah, yeah. Sorry.
well, just with like how they're moving away from relics, I guess that main thing, or
Yeah, yeah. Pretty much like how they're moving away from relics, and so like me personally, for example, I thought that take like Absolution, right? That you have in
yeah,
Smite 1, current Absolution.
yeah.
I thought it was really cool that in Smite 2, I could sort of choose when to proc that Absolution or choose when to proc Wingblade. So
Oh
it's
yeah,
like,
for sure.
Rama arrows aren't, procking my Wingblade. I don't want that.
Yeah.
So yeah, like would you like think about all of that, like that sort of extra complexity that they added with that? Do you think it was an overall good change and maybe like
Yeah.
keeping to one relic?
Yeah, I think it was needed. I think it, like you said, it adds even more, not even complexity because we never really had it, but like it just adds like a new system to the game that was missing that every other MOBA had, and like I like maybe it was impossible in Smite One with like two relics, two consumables, and all these active items, but I'm glad they've realized that like active items add so much to the game. Like at a high level, you're gonna have some builds with like three or four, and just seeing players being able to like mix and match these combinations or combo with someone else's active items, like it's just gonna be really interesting, and we're gonna see a lot of combos with the same gods that we've never seen before, just because now they're on active items. And like you said, like the Wingblade one or the Absolution one, again, it just removes that frustration factor of like this guy just forced my item
Yeah.
and now it's on a cooldown when I didn't even need to use it. So I think that's a really good change, and I think that's one they should definitely stick to. But I think that there's a lot of discussion about the beads, like being the mandatory relic and like the combat blink stuff, and I think that's gonna be really hard for Hyros to juggle. Like,
Yeah.
first of all, I don't think beads is great for new players. I think new players, whenever I've played with new players or watched them play on stream or anything, they're terrible at using beads. It's not fun for them. They don't know what's hitting them. They don't know when to CC, and I think that at a high level, everyone just having beads is boring. We've already seen it. Whenever it's been a meta of 5 beads, it's way less playmaking, way less outplay potential. So I think that maybe it would be worth trialing Blink as the default relic. It's more fun for newer players. You can make plays with Blink. Everyone knows what Blink does. Every MOBA has it. Uh, you can use it defensively, and just have beads on an active item, which is like reasonably priced, I think. So if you really need it, then you can buy it. Or maybe just trial having one or the other, like being able to pick from one or the other, because I think the game needs both.
Yeah.
It's really hard to play Smite as an engager without Blink, and it's obviously really hard to play without beads as a carry. So I think that Hyros is going to struggle to kind of listen to both ends of that community, and it's it feels weird because the relic system I think was really good in Smite One as well. Like I feel like we'd gone to a point where everyone was happy with relic options, the upgrades were strong, so maybe they could backtrack and add 2 relic slots and maybe see if that can work with all these buttons. Like, I don't know. I think the main thing is just like making sure people don't have too many things to press at once, I guess.
Yeah, I saw recently I saw a poll on Twitter from I think it was Black Eye put up a poll about, what people think about
Yeah.
beads, and it was like a straight up 50-50, and one of the devs
Yeah.
responded, "Welcome to game development." you know?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, it's really easy for us to argue on Twitter and streams about like what we think is the best, but like
Yeah.
it is going to be a true 50-50 when it comes to something like that. It's the same with this like channeling abilities and blink discussion, which I think is dumb. Like I think that's a fine thing to have in the game. It really doesn't make that big of an impact, but a lot of people are just gonna be like, "That's frustrating. I don't want to deal with it." I don't want to get blinked on by full damage Ymir in his ult like once every 10 games because no one wants to get one shot, you know. But yeah, I think the devs are gonna be. I mean, that's just how it's always been in Smite as well. To be fair, like the community is always very divided on changes and not that open to accepting new stuff. In my opinion, like we've seen a lot of random mechanics or buffs or god changes where like people want nerfs instantly, and Hyros kind of has to listen. So I think like they'll probably play the safe route as usual because it just makes the most sense.
Yeah, it like going back to you saying maybe like switch it out for combat blink or whatever the case for the one relic slot that you have.
Yeah.
Like really thinking about it, someone like that's playing Ares, for example, I feel like he'd almost be unplayable in the sense that if every single person has beads, like how are you going to get a pick in the early game? You know?
Yeah, I think that's the really hard thing where like you're not making it like you're making a new game, but it's not new. Like we have
Right.
all these characters with pre-existing CC and abilities, and like we've played them for 10 years. We know what these characters do, and if they don't have any adjustments, then yeah, like if you don't have beads as a mandatory thing, Ares is broken. He can pull everyone every 90 seconds. But if everyone has beads, he's useless.
Yeah.
He has to burn like a 3 minute cooldown on every individual, like with like a 90-second ult. So it's like really hard for him to get value at the same time. So I think like I'd like to see them maybe tone down CC overall in the game,
Yeah.
and then lower DR so that like people's CC is still impactful, but it's just less from the get go, so that maybe beads is less of a requirement like throughout the game. There's always going to be like big abusers of it, like Fenrir ult, Ares ult, but like that's just how it is, right? Like some characters need to be broken in that sense because they're weak in another. So you can't appeal to everything. Like you got to be willing to have stuff in the game that's overtuned in some way and like has counterplay in another. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. And you actually brought up a good point about beads being on like a 3 minute cooldown. What do you think about that? Because I feel like that's a tad bit too
It is
long.
three, right? Like I just said it because it felt like it was like three, but I'm not. It
It's
was something around that, right?
I think it was like around 200. It might have been 240 seconds, which actually no, that sounds too long. Yeah, I think it's around 3. Well, we'll say it's around 3. Maybe somebody will
Yeah.
correct
Let's
us.
just say it is three.
Yeah. Like what do you think about that? You think that's too long?
It's kinda yeah. Like I think it may lead to like a really slow-paced game because like if you lose your beads right now, like in Smite, you have to be more careful because of
Yeah.
every character has CC, like too much of it.
Right,
So
right.
I think if we get to a spot in Smite 2 where there's active items that have CC on them, and your beads is on a longer cooldown than usual, you're just not going to be making plays at a high level anyway. Like in casuals, like all this talk like really won't be that impactful. People are just going to play and have fun. Uh, when we talk about ranked and high level, it really might slow the pace of the game down a lot because everyone has beads in the first place, and then anytime you force one, that guy's just gonna chill. He's gonna avoid fighting for probably the whole 3 minute cooldown because why would you risk it right now? So yeah, maybe then he's like I was thinking of because even Blink, which is something you have to buy and has a really long cooldown. I was thinking maybe if there was a way to reduce the cooldown of those items, like let's say you got a kill or assist, maybe it would take off like 10 seconds or 15. Would like really speed up the pace of the game, feel more rewarding to make plays. Even and they could do the same to beads. So like if you use beads in a fight, but that fight then goes well, you're rewarded for that because you've used your relics well, and now it's on a lower cooldown. Like now it's down to
Yeah.
like 2 minutes already. I think that could be fun.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that sounds like a pretty good idea. Definitely a lot of experimentation that needs to keep happening.
Yeah.
What what Soul Link character do you hope gets added like in the next alpha or beta that you just really really want to try for Smite 2?
I think my most anticipated is always gonna be King Arthur. That's like after Bologna, he's my favorite in Smite history. I really want to see how they adapt him to Smite 2. I think without Bluestone and stuff like that, like it's just gonna be a new character. Uh, we're just gonna have to see how they do his animations as well. Like he's probably gonna be more fluid. His abilities gonna look better, and I think that it's kind of gonna be like a rebirth for that character more than most because he's been very one-dimensional, like for the last like 6 years or whatever in Smite. Like after the blessings were removed, it was just Bluestone every game. If Bluestone is bad, Arthur is bad. So it's gonna be cool to see how they can shift that and just make him a just more consistent character that can be played whenever, really. And I think Tsukiyomi as well, which I guess is like a jungler too, but I
We'll
think
throw him
that
in
he's
solo.
yeah, like I've played him more in solo. He's like one of my favorite solos whenever he's good. I think he's a character that could have like really fun mixed scaling. Like one of his blades could be an intelligence scaling one, and the other one could just be strength. I think that could add like a lot more to the character, and like I think he already has such a fun kit, and with the new active items and just some of the strength items as well. Like I think he could just be like one of the best gods in the game if they really manipulate his scaling well and like keep it mixed.
Yeah, like I gotta say, it's gonna be so fun watching the pro league or really any high level gameplay. Hopefully, if they have a pro league,
Yeah,
but
hopefully, yeah.
yeah, but it's gonna be so fun watching that because that again, using that absolution wingblade proc, whatever proc that they have, players using it on the spot in a team fight while everything is going down, physically having to press the button.
Yeah.
That's like that skill is gonna be so fun to watch, right? You're gonna see
Yeah,
so
for
many
sure.
crack players.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, if there's pro league, I feel like I already know the answer to this one, but like, will you be looking to compete for Smite 2?
Yeah, I think this downtime has made me miss it more than anything.
Yeah.
Like it's just so weird to not compete for like the first time and like since I was like 15, I think. I've played pretty much every year for the last 9 years, like constantly.
Yeah.
Um, I think for me and for pretty much everyone, it has to be worth it, right? Whether that's just financially or time zones as well. Like, are we gonna have like only an NA league, or are we actually gonna have like NA EU now, or even LATAM, OCE, all these other regions? Are they gonna make a comeback? And also, like, I think Hi-Rez needs to really support it from the get-go,
Hmm.
and not just drop like a one-off like big tournament, but like there needs to be a structure, right? Like people need to be like, oh, like, okay, we're gonna play this one 500k tournament at launch, and then it's gonna lead into this, like a league format, or now it's gonna lead into these mini tournaments to lead up to another major. Like there needs to be something that keeps people interested and wanting to compete at a high level. And I think they're already taking a little bit too long to give us info on that, I think.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of players who are like not even playing right now because they're just waiting to hear what the Smite 2 esports is going to be
Right.
like. And, you can only wait so long for a lot of people. Like I'm fortunate I can stream and, enjoy that side of it too. So for me, it's fine to wait. But I know there's a lot of players who are just like desperate to find out when they can even compete or if it's something that's even viable. And yeah, I just hope Pyres don't mess it up because I think esports is a very, very big part of any MOBA. It's just a competitive game. You need esports to push the game forward and have eyes on the game. It's way more impactful than like paying streamers on a sponsored stream for like a 2 hour session. Like these are going to be
Right.
players that play every day, compete every day, create content, and push the scene forward. And I think with like kind of a revitalized player base of players who want to try harder, with the backing of Hi-Rez pushing esports, it could do a lot more good for the game than it did in Smite 1. Because I do think in Smite 1, a lot of the pros were very lazy when it came to content, or even like putting an effort into SPL, or doing the weekly content we had there. Like Hi-Rez would provide opportunities, but they weren't exactly used well. So I think it's nice to have like a restart, and hopefully everyone like puts in the effort needed to really make the most of it.
Yeah, to really like grow the game and show why
Yeah.
high res should actually just continue on with the pro league,
Yeah,
continue
because it
funding.
because it has to be on both sides, Like we can't just demand Hi-Rez to do stuff for us without doing anything for the game too. Like
Right.
it needs to be definitely more in Hi-Rez's favor, like a 60-40 balance. But like the players, like they need to show desire and like want to actually like grow the game and grow their own brand to bring more players into Smite.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And speaking of the league, actually, did you like mind having to live in Georgia, or would you rather, obviously it's separate regions and maybe some online play into LAN events, where both NA and
I
EU
I
collide?
enjoyed it. I enjoyed the whole experience. It was probably my favorite period of Smite, like living
Really?
abroad. Yeah, it just for me, I was young as well. I got to like live there for like 5 years, mature, grow up and become an adult. Like I had to learn so many things to do with like not just Smite, but like taxes and rent and all this stuff, like doing it by
Yeah.
myself. And I just thought it was really fun. You're doing it with your best friends as well, if you get the right team anyway. I know some people didn't, but like I was always playing with really good friends, and like we were able to like grow together, learn together, grind every day, scrim, just be in the team house. And like every team I've been on, we would talk about the game for hours at night, pretty much like a couple times a week. And it's just like a way better experience than like, because I played before it was LAN as well. It was just like you would show up on a weekend, you would play your games, and then you're back to like your other life. And I think it's nice to be super locked in and focused on one goal, and that was always winning worlds. And I think, yeah, as long as you're getting paid enough to move, then I think it's always a good idea. But the issue is you also need to make sure that other regions are alive. You can't just
Right.
have another Smite 2 where everyone has to move to NA. So that's why I think it probably won't be viable to have like a LAN league. I think it's just too much money upfront to like put into the game. Because it's not like they can have a LAN studio in NA and then one in EU and then one in LATAM. Like it's going to cost like tens of millions of dollars a year. So I think it's more likely that we'll just have like an online format leading into LAN tournaments. So it's just going to be something everyone has to adjust to.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so I want to get into the Smite World Championship because I mean, dude, it was so fun to watch. I was streaming it and watching every single set. I mean, okay,
Yeah.
listen up. I made a bracket who I thought was gonna win. All right.
Mm,
I thought it was gonna be the Ferryman personally.
that's fair.
Just because of how they were looking all season, and so it was like obviously really surprising, seeing you guys beat the Ferrymen, and it was also really fun too, especially bringing the finals to a game 5, versus
Yeah.
Oni Warriors. So I want to get into this. That feeling you got when you won game 5 and you ran, because like I saw you like went up to the middle, grabbed the hammer. When you lifted Thor's hammer for the first time, how did it feel? What were the emotions going through it? Was it heavy at all?
No, okay, the hammer wasn't heavy at all, but like I I was like weak in the knees. I was like, this can't be real. Like it's like it was almost weightless to me, but it was like the biggest relief in my life to like finally win it. I mean, I've been playing since season 3, and like every year I'm getting closer and closer, and then there's been so many setbacks as well. Same for my teammates, like even Mike who's won it already. Like we've all had so many setbacks, and to know it was the final Worlds, final Smite 1 comp game we'll ever play with like the run we had, and like it was just surreal. So just lifting that hammer, like man, I can't even describe it. It's like it's almost like it was like a blur or like a dream that finally came true. And like yeah, it's just a moment I'll never forget. Like we were just huddled and everyone was like telling me to go get the hammer. I'm like, no way! Like it's finally it finally happened.
Yeah,
Just
so
absolutely insane.
they were telling you to go get the hammer.
Yeah, so like we jumped up, we're all like yelling, crying, like happy we won, and we're in the huddle. And then I think Coast and Mike told me to go grab it. I'm like, good. Like, God bless. Like, finally, I get to experience this feeling after like watching so many of my friends and teammates and opponents lift it for the last decade. Pretty much. So felt great.
Yeah, it was like almost like lifting up all those years of trying to compete.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it for sure. Yeah.
Going to the semifinals. You guys were down 0-2 versus the Ferrymen, right? And so for those of you that don't know the format, it was a best of 5, meaning that the first team that hits 3 games is going to win. They're down 0-2 to the Ferrymen. So this is like the make or break kind of game. In my opinion, it was probably the most important game
Yeah.
of for you guys of the entire event because it was your turning point. Listen, I compete. That's got to be rough. Okay, I from personal experience, and I know from my teammates' experiences. What was the change in mindset do you think to be able to win that game? Like how did it lead to a reverse sweep against what a lot of people considered to be the best team in the SPL at the time?
Yeah, that's how we consider them as well. Like anytime we thought about like who do we need to beat to win Worlds, obviously it's everyone, but like it's the Ferryman.
Right.
Like they're like this robotic team that doesn't mess up. So like how do you get them to break? And I think for us a lot of it came down to um just having fun. I think the worst thing you can do when you're down 0-2 or even losing one game is like get down on yourself, lose confidence, less playmaking, stuff like that. Just make sure you're having a good time, enjoy the people you're playing with, enjoy the game you're playing, and execute the game plan. And for us, a lot of that had to do with discipline. I think that game 1 and 2, they were like super long games against the Ferryman still, and we felt like sure, like they punished the mistakes we made, but we were making too many of those mistakes against too good of a team to come out on top. So game 3, we pretty much slowed it down. We were like, we'll put Dardez on Merlin. That means we can slow the game down, play for 6 slot, and just team fight them. Team fight them 5v1 instead of 5v5 instead of having to deal with like macro or good split pushing that the Ferrymen excel in, like better than any team. Like we've seen them throughout the whole year with Cyclone. Like the shot calling he has is just so hard to break down if you make mistakes against that team. So for us, we were just like getting in the mindset of like, yeah, it's your last game potentially. Like, just make sure you have a good time. Don't be scared to make plays, but also make sure you're disciplined and not trying to do too much. We're beating ourselves in these games, so as soon as we stop that, we just need one game. If you prove you can win one game, you can win as many as you want. So that's what we needed. Just one game to, I guess, like prove to ourselves that we got this.
Yeah, kind of like just taking it best of one, right? Each game is the best of one.
Yeah, for sure.
And besides, putting Dardez on the Merlin, was first of all, was there a pep talk at all before the game? Like, was there a mic pep talk or?
Yeah, that was. I wish they had comps for it because like I don't remember like everything from it, but a lot like the have fun thing came from Mike. Like he was like really clear on that one. Like he wants energy, he wants people to have fun and be vocal and believe in each other and believe in themselves. It was all that like kind of like I guess like soppy stuff, the like that's just the traditional stuff you tell everyone, but it works. Like you have the crowd cheering for you, you have your teammates alongside you, like you just got to do what you've been doing the whole year and just have a good time. And I think that made a really big difference for us, like just having those words of encouragement.
Yeah, I feel like it's like always about the mindset that you have going into it. So besides like the Merlin pick for Dardez, was there anything else that you changed up that you guys were talking about that you wanted to change up about the draft for that game? That like say were they
Mm,
beating you in the draft the previous 2 games?
so I think the problem, so game 1 draft, we like coin flipped it. We were like 10th pick. We haven't really practiced Zeus a lot, but it looks really good here. So let's just try it. So we coin flip it. It's like a 50-minute game. We come out of it. Okay, we didn't even play our draft strategy. It's fine. We go next. And then game 2, I don't know if you remember, but it's when we had Maman mid and like Daji jungle. We were like winning the game for the most part. Um, and then eventually there's like a couple throws from them, then from us, and then we go for like the backdoor play. Like we're just like running it down mid, trying to backdoor whilst they're rolling FG. So that was just like a really coin flippy play again. So that's the main thing we changed. It's like be disciplined. We don't need to make coin flips. Like we're in a really good spot. We can take the game longer. Like we're not losing fights to them right now. So like why are we even flipping these games? Like we were really confident in our team fighting. Like even if we respected the Ferryman like a lot, we believed we were the better team fight team the whole year. So that's just the main like adaptation, and then obviously making sure you draft well for that. Draft well for like having like me on good engage, last on good 1v1, or Godzilla can like force relics or make plays. Like I think he played Sakat in the he played Sakat in the third game, which is obviously one of his comfort picks too. And then make sure Coast is in a good spot in his lane. When he's ahead, he's the best ADC by a mile. You want to make sure he's confident and feeling good, and we made sure we did that like every game against Cyclone and even Royd, and yeah, everything just kind of clicked.
Yeah, and you think that like that mentality just really carried over until game 4 and then obviously game 5.
Yeah, I think it was like game 3 is like we make him bleed, you know. It's like we can take one game and then the confidence ramps up a little bit and then we go like I think we pivoted to comfort picks a lot more, like especially me. Then I was just like, I just want to play Bologna. Like it was so good in scrims. I'm like, why are we not just playing Bologna every game? No one's valuing it, like other than us. Like let's just play Bologna. Like if this guy's gonna play Amma and have zero pressure, then like put me on a comfort pick. I'll win. And then I think everyone slowly had the same mindset of like Mike had a game where he played Baron because he was like, I'll just carry this game if I get Baron here, low pick, or like uh last on Pele in like the final game. It's like it's a bad god, but like it's his comfort pick, and he knows what he can do with it. And I think that was a big thing for us where we knew our game plan, but at the end of the day, like if you just play your comfort picks and you're having a good time and you're confident in yourself, like and your teammates believe in you, it's way better than just like forcing meta or like what you think is good instead of like just playing what you know you're good at.
Yeah, actually, I really like that mentality. I felt like I've had that same mentality too with some of my games in the past, where it's like, I know this is meta, but if you're just a lot better on these characters, and these characters are still decent, they're not complete hot
Yeah.
garbage.
Yeah, obviously there has to be like a
Yeah,
balance,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, exactly. Then you're gonna perform on them, and we all know Laz on Pele. I've lost a lot of ranked games to Laz on Pele.
Yeah, I've lost SPL games to that as well. Like,
dude, let's talk about the crowd. Oh man, the
oof, the
crowd.
crowd.
That was insane. To even quote in between interviews, um, so after you beat the Ferrymen, you're crying a little bit, tears of joy,
Yeah,
of course. And you said, we owe it to you guys, the crowd. They got us back into it. And then you also said, keep it up, and we're winning the whole thing. Not to foreshadow
yeah.
in the future or anything, but um, dude, like how integral was the crowd in enabling the Dragons to climb the bracket and win Worlds?
I think it was probably the most important thing in the whole tournament. I think like the crowd is a defining factor between like a set in the SPL studio or online or like in a tournament, right? Like that's the difference. It like you're still playing the same game on the same setup and everything like that, but now there's just people that you can hear all the time. They're either on your side or cheering against you, and like the amount of confidence you, because we can hear them very clearly. Like if you make a good play, if you roll a team fight, if you're getting every coup, like what the SPL crowd loves, like every year, like you're gonna hear that, and it's gonna just bring that extra bit of confidence because like you have like 2,000 people behind you, like who want you to win. Because when the crowd is on your side, like if you're the other team, it's like nothing you do makes them happy. I remember like someone, I think it was Salt, would get a coup against us every now and then, and they'd get booed, and like stuff like that. Like you hear it in the listen-ins where people are like, "Yeah, just don't let the crowd get to you," blah blah blah, and it's like, but it always will, like good or bad. It's impossible to ignore because they are that loud, and I think for us, just like having the crowd behind us and like wanting us to reverse sweep or wanting us to win worlds, like it just adds that extra bit of oomph. Like you don't want to let them down. You don't want to let yourself down, but you also have all these people who are here to watch you and cheer for you, and you just want to put on a show for them. Really, that's the main thing.
Yeah, and like, so I enjoy watching a lot of different esports. Apex, Halo, Smite, of course. And
Yeah,
I gotta say, the crowd there at that finals, I mean, it
it
it, it
was
was better.
ridiculous.
Yeah, it
Yeah, it
was like
was.
better than those esports,
Yeah,
by miles sometimes.
with like half the people or even less. Yeah, like
Yeah,
it just
exactly.
shows like how dedicated people are to Smite Esports and like why we need it around. Like that was the most, like I've been to so many worlds as well now. That was the best crowd by a mile. Not just because they were cheering for me, but
Yeah.
like the volume, like the creativity, like just everything about it. Like it was just so much fun. Like even if we lost, like it would have been just the best experience of my life. Like it was just so fun.
Yeah, dude, it's almost as if like the totem spawns the crowd. It's like the extra totem
Yeah,
buff that
like
no one knows is there.
yeah. I mean, I guess there's just so much downtime, like in pro games, where like you
Yeah.
got to find something to cheer for. Good
Yeah,
thing we
there he
got the
goes.
coup every minute.
Take the small wins. Take the small wins. Dude, so going into the finals, you guys were up 2-0 versus the Oni Warriors.
Yeah.
But then we hit game 3 and the
Oof.
Oni Warriors win it. You reverse swept the Ferrymen.
Yeah.
Did it ever cross your mind that a reverse sweep was possibly incoming in the finals?
No.
Okay.
Like, okay, like obviously it could, like they brought back two, but like never in my mind was like like there was no chance we were losing game five. Like I think all of us were sitting there like we're not gonna allow that. Like it's just not happening. And like the big thing for game three and four as well, was like I said in the first VMs of Ferryman, we kinda let our draft plan like slip out of like control. Like instead of doing what was winning our games in game one and two, we were like, let's try a Morrigan comp, and then then they pick Kepri, and now it's like now our Morrigan comp sucks. We have Morrigan and her backline. Like now the game's just difficult. And then game four we pick like I think I was Achilles. I forgot what Dardez was, but like I think he was like we just had really bad drafts. Mike on ESAT, like we were just trying to be too creative with the games we had up instead of just doing the basics and like sticking with what was working like the whole tournament. Because like we could have just done a Merlin comp, we could have just done Osiris, like value Osiris or Hatchie and like give it to Coast or me, and that's just the main thing we did in game five. It's like, and then obviously like the bottom two picks were different, but the top three were just like, why are we making this hard? Put Coast on Hatchie, it's the best ADC. Put me on a Cyrus and we can trade a Cyrus below and like I'm winning either side of that matchup anyway, and put Dardez on the scaling mage, and then yeah, then we have three boxes ticked for early mid late game, and just keep it simple. And then when we got to that bottom two, I actually don't remember what the other picks were, but like I really loved the sound of like Atlas Pele when I looked at the enemy comp, and I was just like I was just like begging everyone to like lock that in. I was like, guys, don't even think about other stuff. We should just do this. Just like our comp will just run them over. They had like Ishtar Thoth, I think, and like just felt unlosable if we locked those two aggressive picks. So I think like even though we were down, like we lost the last two games. Again, we were like we're beating ourselves. We're getting punished by a team who like the Warriors run you over when you mess up. Like they shut us out in game four. But like it didn't feel like we were getting outplayed necessarily. We were like outplaying ourselves super hard in draft. So it was just like it's all good. We have one more game, all or nothing. Crowd's still on our side. They're doing great. They got like a trombone out or something now as well. Like how can you be like sad going to that game five? Like everything is so hype.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think for us it was just keeping the energy up, fixing the draft, going back to what's been working, and yeah, just executing the game plan.
Yeah, it's like a you're just full of like positive emotions, like we
Yeah,
just
like
got to the finals.
yeah, you can't lose the mental. Like that's the problem when it gets to these like reverse sweeps. It's like as soon as people lose hope, even if it's one person out of the five, it can derail everything. Like it's the same game. Like it's like you just had to play like a best of one. Like it's always possible that you reverse sweep someone or you get reverse swept. Like we're like the top players in the world. Like you got to be ready to come back from anything. So like as soon as one player crumbles mentally, like it just derails everyone. But luckily, everyone on our team was just like super hyped, like ready to play. Like everyone believed in that game five, and I think that was actually our best game of the tournament. Like in terms of how clean it was.
Yeah.
I was shocked at how like easily we won that game five. Because obviously the Warriors are an insane team.
Yeah.
It's very rare that they get rolled over, but like that game felt like it just I don't know, like even in our comms we were just so casual and like we were just like joking around with each other and stuff. It was like a victory lap, kinda.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I was reading a comment under the SPL comms video that got posted a couple days ago,
Yeah.
and this one person said they think that the Warriors they sort of stopped having fun, or like they were still having fun, but they went from a like for fun team, which like really helped them out, to being too serious. And like those players are kind of like more maybe for fun players, but
Hmm.
like maybe that affected them in some way. I'm not really sure. But yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that.
Yeah, I think the thing for the Warriors was like they also drafted like a very all or nothing comp with like Ymir Gilgamesh, like especially. And they just got off to a really bad start. And like you kind of just start coping super hard after a start like that. When you know your comp is worse, you're just like you're like you're like clinging at random stuff like, oh, like they're doing this badly. It's okay, like we can make a comeback. But like even in their listenings, it never really felt like they believed that they could make a comeback. And that's the big difference maker, like between I think our team and all the other ones is like we always believed like we could win, and like we never dropped like energy or like belief, and I think other teams definitely did.
Yeah, and I think that stems back from what you were saying earlier to your team fighting. So you mentioned that you thought that you guys were the best team fighters in the
Yeah,
league. So where does that confidence come from team fighting? Was it, shot calling? Do you think you guys had better shot calling during team fights, better discipline during the team
I
fight?
think the best thing with our team fighting is that like you didn't have to call much in our team because everyone was doing their job like automatically in these fights like throughout the whole year. Like me and Les knew what we needed to do together. Like if Dardez is Mori, then like I've played with his Mori for like 6 years. Like I know exactly what he wants me to do
Yeah.
and like what he need, like vice versa, you know. Like and then Coast and Dardez, they didn't talk much between them two, but like they're just both really intelligent backliners. Like they knew what they needed to do together. They knew when to bait one of another. And then obviously you have Mike in the middle of all of this who will make calls, whether like he's a sacrifice, like get out of this fight, like sack that guy, or like go on this guy. Like he was kind of pulling all the strings whilst everyone just knew their role at the same time, and it was just super fluid. Like comms would get loud or hyped and stuff like that, but all of us knew how to like differentiate between what was like trash calling and like what is necessary.
Yeah.
Um, and then I think when you listen to a lot of other teams, it's like there's not much agreeing with each other. It's like a lot of different ideas at once with no like yes or no, or like just it's just like a mess compared to what I think our fights were, where it was like someone calls a target, we just go on that target, but like maybe I need to do something else. Like I can do it without like having to care about what the other four are doing, you know? And it's just keeping stuff fluid and like just knowing what the plan of the fight is going into it beforehand. I think like you can win any fight if you just play it better than the other team, like even from a deficit. And like we did that multiple times because we just knew what we needed to do, and like I guess we were just like always prepared for it. Like we knew we'd get one fight every game at least to bring a game back, and like it was just the same throughout the whole year. Like it wasn't something you could practice, I guess, like specifically, because a lot of scrims end like way earlier. People surrender, or like it's a scrim. Like some people just don't take it as seriously, which
Right,
sucks.
right.
But I think for us, we were just all really good natural teammates. Like we don't have selfish players. Like everyone is just trying to win, like for the team instead of like I don't know, maybe going for like a hero play or like a helper syndrome play. Like we just like ironed all of that stuff out really well throughout the whole year.
Yeah. And I gotta say, you played like individually, you played one hell of a tournament. Like you
Thank
were,
you.
yeah, dude, you were on fire. You were crazy. I mean, I think that's why people were also rooting for you for the tournament. I mean, yeah, sometimes when the casters would like pan the camera over to the totem late, you just see a Bologna flag alt on the ground, for that totem. People were like, "Yeah, let's go." Dude. So like personally, I thought that after that event, you were gonna get MVP. I know Dardez got it, and of course, you guys have been teamed together. You're very happy you got it.
Yeah.
But were you like at all surprised that you didn't get it?
So it's actually so troll. Like so within the listening comms, like there's one moment where like Mike calls me the future MVP, like as we're like winning one of the games. And I'm like, it's not gonna be me, it's gonna be the Frenchie, like because I thought Dardez would get it the whole time. And then when it gets to the moment where like Kelly's handing it out, everyone tells me to go to the front with her. They set me up. Isn't that messed up? Like they set me
Dude,
up, and
yeah.
then that's why I was confused because it's like, why are you guys sending me to the front?
Dude, dude,
uh,
I was confused too because like I said, I was streaming it, and when we were watching, we are like, all right, or not Dardez, Nika's about to get MVP, and we saw you like up there, like you were prepared to get it, and then they're like Dardez, and we like saw your face, and I was like, dude, Nika looks so like flustered right now.
yeah, I was just confused because like, but like I didn't care. Like MVP is just cool, but like at the end of the day, we won. Like I'm not gonna come out of it like I should have won. Like I carried this. Like it's not about that. Like all that matters is we won Worlds. I won it with like Dardez is like one of my closest friends. Like I've teamed with him since. I mean, even in season 4, I had teamed with him a little bit. So like it's like 6 years of teaming with this guy, living with him for multiple years. Like we've been through a lot, and just like it just means the world to be able to win it with like one of them, like Cherry, Vote, Dardez, like these guys I teamed with forever. Like it was cool having Cherry there in person as well. Like I'm so glad he made it out because there was a chance he couldn't be there in person, and it would have definitely made it feel worse. Like it was so nice being able to celebrate with those three specifically because like we'd been chasing this for years. Like and we were so close multiple times. It felt like from our point of view, and to like finally overcome it, win, and then he gets MVP as well. Like Dardez has been a super like disrespected player by a lot of people. Like if you're in the pro league, you always view him as one of the best mids, but like a lot of people outside of it like are just like blind to it. Like they don't really see what he does. So I think it was just like a player finally getting the respect he deserves as like genuinely one of the best players the game's ever seen. So I think I think it was a very worthy MVP as well. Like he made so many like game saving plays. Like everyone played sick. You never win worlds like with your team not playing well like as a whole. But like Dardez was an absolute hero in so many of those, especially the Ravens set. I think like more than any. Like he like if he didn't make some of those plays, we may have got first rounded. You know, like it's like he definitely deserved it.
Yeah, I like honestly not even just in the pro league, but I know he is respected amongst like SEC players or some
Yeah.
SEC players as well, at least ones that I've talked to. I remember when I first started watching SPL, which was around season 10, I think is when or season 7 is when I got into comp. But
Mm.
I remember seeing Dardez and I was like, dude, this guy's like the best mid in the game. Like I was
Yeah.
watching him and I was like, this guy just makes plays. And I
Yeah,
thought,
he's absolutely insane. Like he always has his own god pool. He outplays you. He's not selfish. He's always playing for his team whilst also looking like a superstar. Like it's
yeah.
just insane.
Did you have any feelings at all about beating your previous team name in the finals? So I know obviously it's like a completely different roster, but you know, it's almost like a farewell to the Oni
Yeah, you could
Warriors,
make
you
some
know?
storyline connection with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's just funny because like it was us versus the Warriors in like the kickoff tournament as well for the SPL. So it kind of felt like a full circle moment where it's like. And then I remember there was also some drama with like a few people being unhappy that we didn't keep the Warriors name and that we took the Dragons one. So I guess like you kind of mold that all into some like kind of like overcoming the name and like beating the name and proving though like we're the best Dragons because we actually won Worlds. Um, so yeah, I guess you could flip it that way and yeah, it's actually pretty cool. I didn't really think about it much.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to what you said earlier about like people hate change because I know people were like confused, like who's on what roster? You know, the Ravens are an SPL team. Wait, wasn't that an
Yeah, like
SEC
why did
team?
we
Yeah.
get rid of the Titans and the Bolts? And then it's like yeah, there was a lot of talk about that stuff. I remember.
And so you said what you were on the Oni Warriors for 2 seasons, right?
Yeah,
And it was like unchanged. It was you, Vote, Dardez,
Fred and
Cubo,
Neil. Yeah,
yeah, and Neil. Okay, and so I mean that's got to be like one of the longest running rosters in SPL with no changes, right?
I mean it was like 2 full years, which most teams didn't do. We
Right,
also were like relegated and had to like requalify in, and we like didn't make any changes either.
right,
So I
right.
think I think we're probably the team that went through the most events without changes. Like not ever, but definitely like the modern SPL
Yeah.
era.
And what compelled you to make the switch going into season 10?
So the way it worked is like season 8, like going into it, we were super confident with that team. It's like we kind of moved on from like Cherry and Raf, and like they went their own. Like Cherry quit, obviously, and then Raf quit as well. And we were like, damn, we want to keep this core together. Individually, we're all like consistently top in our role, like top 3 or whatever. We just need a new jungle support, and like Fred and Dardez have always been like close to teaming over the years, and like as a European, like we all know how good Fred is. He's like adapting level for most of his career. Like he's dominated that region.
Yep.
So, and like he's just coming off the back of a Worlds win as well. And then with Neil, we knew he was a support that was like just very talkative, very motivational, and would like keep the energy up, which is something our teams have lacked throughout tournaments. And it's also just a new experience, like players we haven't played with and players we like just from like hanging out with them in tournaments and stuff. And that's what we wanted more than anything. There was another scenario where like if PK didn't break up, we were gonna team with Jake and Scream, like me, Vote, Dardez, Jake, Scream. Which, looking back at it, would have been so much fun. It would have been, it could have been an absolute disaster, or it could have been magically like a top 3 team. But
Yeah.
I have no regrets about like teaming with Fred and Neil. It just really sucks that like the first year, the one we're the most hyped about, 3 of them are like no visa, like stuck at home. It was just me and Vote for the whole year until the week before Worlds. The week before Worlds was the first time, or Worlds qualies, I mean, that we had a 5-man like in the US.
And that was
So
season
season
8?
8,
Yeah, okay.
yeah. So for us, it felt like whatever happened, like at Worlds or whatever, like we felt like we should give it another go because we didn't even get we didn't get the right amount of practice as a team. Like we believe in each other, we've been super inconsistent, but we haven't had the right environment to like get better. So even before Worlds, we had like all committed to just like giving it another shot, even if we had to requalify. Like we knew we'd win. Like, it wasn't like we didn't have any doubt like in each other at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, then we ran it back another year, requalified, had like very mixed results. Like we were 4th seed, then we were like 6th seed, and then there was a split where we like were like 3rd seed. It was like really up and down. But we were like, yeah, at Worlds, like if we just show up with good prep, like we can surprise people. And it didn't work out. Um, and I think we were gonna always make change, like me, Vote, Dardez, like anyway. Like we again wanted to keep the trio together, which was dumb. That should have been the moment we split, in my opinion. I think all of them would agree as well. But like Fred and Neil quit as well. So like again, it was the same scenario. We were forced into change,
Right.
but we were probably gonna do it anyway. And I think the biggest learning point for like me and Dardez especially was just like we just had to be more willing to change like over all of the years in our teams. There was a lot of like near roster changes where we just didn't do it because we felt bad or we thought that like it wouldn't be a big enough improvement. But sometimes you just need to do it,
Right.
even if it sucks. Like getting rid of Vote in season 10 was the toughest thing in my entire life. Like it was absolutely brutal. I hated it. I hated every moment of that week of like not because I hate Coast. I love Coast. I enjoy
Yeah.
teaming with him. It must have sucked to be him, like joining a team where like 2 people are just depressed because like they just had to kick their best friend. But like, yeah, it was just like a massive learning curve that like over the years, like me and Darius talk about it a lot, where we just should have been more open to change, and we probably would have found more success. But yeah, that's kind of like the story with the Warriors, where like we just wanted to run it back because we wanted a full year of practice to see like what we could really pull off.
Now that we're on this topic with changing out or swapping out the ADC,
Yeah.
what was the cause for a change and why the ADC role?
So it's like multiple different things. So throughout the year, like the first 2 splits, we had a lot of issues as a team. Whether and it wasn't just like one person. Like all 5 players contributed their own amount. Me and Vote were like very up and down in motivation or like energy, based like on various different reasons. It's not just gonna be like it could be outside a game, could be in game. Lass and Mike clashed a lot with just like understanding of like how they want to play the game and like trying to get the best of both worlds.
Mm-hmm.
And Dardez's issue was that first split he was stuck in France, no visa, which just made him an absolute nightmare. Like he just wasn't really active like at all with the team. He would just play. And it was this, and then split 2, he was just really quiet. Like he just wouldn't lead the team or like be vocal when he should have been. Because the way he is like he doesn't talk over people. If someone's yelling, he's not gonna tell you to shut the fuck up and like then say his thing. He's just gonna wait and like all of that coming together, and then like the mixed results. Uh, Mike was the main guy who was like, we need to change something because like it's just not working, and we don't have like since it's the Lost Worlds, and like we don't have like a second chance, you know, like something needs to change, and the easiest thing to change in any team will always be the side lanes, like one of them, the ADC or the solo. And I think that what it came down to for them is that they saw more potential in me like fixing my issues in a short amount of time than with Liam with Vote. And also him and Mike didn't have the best like dual lane coordination. Like they were very different players in terms of like what they've been used to. Like Vote's always played with supports who are a lot more passive and like would kind of just like leave his lane, but Mike wants to be in that lane. He wants to 2v2, and like they just weren't really on the same page, and like we didn't have enough time to fix it. So I think that all of that combined just kind of led to, and then an ADC being available who was like at the time one of the best in the league. Mike said that like he watched every single Coast VOD for a whole split and was like, this guy's the best ADC in the league, and we can get him right now. So like, let's just do it pretty much. Because like I was like not part of the main talk because there definitely was a timeline where I could have been dropped. Like
Yeah.
in my opinion anyway. I don't know how close it was, but let's say a top solo was available, like maybe they would have gone with me instead of Liam. But like I was told slightly after the decision was made, and it was just like a lot to process because I still felt like we could fix a lot of those issues that were coming up, but I also understood that change is correct, and all those years of not making changes led to failure, and there's no more room to fail. Like this is the last worlds. If we have to make a change like this, then we just have to do it. Like you just can't avoid it. So it was definitely like a really tough experience, and it sucks the Vote like didn't even get to play the last worlds. But like I am still glad that like I teamed with him and had all those experiences, and I wish we won with him as well. But at the end of the day, I'm also just I'm glad I was on a team with someone like Mike and Cherry as well, because and like just new people who were like willing to be like, we do need to make a change, like snap out of it. We just got to move on and like do what's best for the team.
Yeah, I think that's like one of the most important parts about being on a team. The friendship is definitely really nice in
Yeah,
there, but at the end of the day, it is a business, right? Like you
yeah,
guys are
for
obviously
sure.
playing because you want to win, and so like sometimes the change is just needed.
Yeah, for sure.
Going into season 10, what goal did you want to accomplish for yourself? Like obviously winning worlds was something that you wanted to do, but sort of the process of getting to that point, what did you want to improve on a more individual level?
I think for me, it was like a year of maturing as a player. I think that on the Oni Warriors team, I was more like a hard carry player, just because even on SSG and Renegades, just because Cherry was like a very supportive jungler. He would like bring up other people to like make them star of the team, kinda. He did it with me. He did it with Dardez. It was the same on Warriors because they were all on ping. Like Fred, Neil, and Dardez are all on ping. So a lot of it came down to like me and Vote being like the carries of the team. And I think for season 10, I was like, that isn't really like my job. Like it was really important to mature and be like, now that everything is back to normal and I have carries who are confident in themselves and a jungler who is able to play that carry style because he's here, he's not on ping. Like we know what Last can do when he's like put resources into him. I think for me it was just like I just need to do my job. Like if I need to int and dive and like start a fight, I need to be willing to do it. Like don't be don't be like a Hollywood play, you know, like just do your job and believe in your teammates and they'll believe in you to do what you need to do. And it was just like really weird for me because for years I'd been used to like the hard carry style. Like I'll play assassin solo and like the team will put resources into me. So it was like it was just trying to get out of that mindset, uh, which was just very like like a selfish mindset because of like the teams I was on. But Yeah, I think it was like a really important year, and I definitely didn't play as well individually, but I did more for my team than other solo laners did for sure. And at the end of the day, that is way more important than like having a good KDA or like winning like a Hazer #1 award like for the split. Like all that matters is the team results at the end of the day. So it was just a lot of maturing and focusing on that more than individual performance.
Yeah, absolutely. Putting in that, like everybody putting in that 20% essentially.
Yeah. Also, like another thing I worked on a lot was like VOD reviewing and like watching my own gameplay back and recording my own gameplay. Just because it's really easy to just like lose a scrim or a game and be like, oh, we lost because of like this moment. But like, there's so much stuff that every individual player can improve on in laning phase, and like when they rotate, will have extra stuff, MOBA stuff. And if you don't watch it back, you'll never notice like any trends or like patterns of mistakes you're making. So this year I put a lot of effort into focusing on that as well.
Yeah, so like
More
you were
more
just
than any year.
all in
Yeah,
committed.
but a lot of that stems from Mike as well, because like that's just how he is, and he kind of breeds that effort into the rest of the team. Like all of us were recording our scrims or like watching it back, or like we were like staying after scrims a few like for an hour or two and like watching stuff back or theory crafting. Like it happened every now and then on other teams. So with Mike, it was like a consistent thing.
So he really in a sense like made you guys want to work on and improve your individual performance. He was like, all
Yeah,
right,
for
this is like
sure.
sort of
More, more,
mandatory.
more than in any other year, for sure.
That's a good sport, supporting in and outside the game.
Yeah, best support in the game's history, in my opinion.
Yeah, dude, Mike's crazy. He's had a lot of accomplishments. I think he was the first major support I knew. Again, watching season 7, everybody's like, "Yo, Dash, you gotta watch Mike play. This guy's insane."
Yeah.
And I was like, I
Well, he
watched
kind
Mike
of like
play
ticks
games.
every box. Like he's dominated regular season. He's won worlds twice now, and like mechanically, like even though it's not as important, he's too clean for a support player. Like he
Yeah,
does not miss.
yeah. He's also always like, at least in my mind, he's always fit that aggressive style.
Yeah.
Like I remember back in the day watching him in some SPL games, like solo people with Fenrir support. Whipping
Yeah.
out the Fenrir support and just
He
like
loves
making
it. Yeah,
ADC.
he would still talk about it, like even the past year, like bring up
Really?
clips of it and stuff. Like, look what I used to be able to do.
I like that, just gassing himself up. All right, guys.
Yeah, he loves it.
So we talked about like a lot of rosters switching this season. Besides the ADC role, like kind of reeling it back a little bit. Back when you saw a vote on the team, you guys just switched out jungle and support.
Yeah,
Those arguably are sort of like the two hardest roles to switch out because there's the two most variable roles, right? Like the roving roles.
yeah.
So how did that impact like you personally or like the team? Did you have trouble with Lasbra at the beginning? Maybe not showing up to blue buffs on time, that whole like jungle solo thing, or like maybe even some trouble with Mike, if he say wanted to stay in dual lane too much, as you
Yeah.
mentioned, while other supports sort of like roamed out.
Yeah, I think everyone had trouble with each other, like not in like a hostile way, but like
Right.
we'd all come from different like archetypes of teams in a way. Like Lass was like kind of a 1v9 player on the bolts. Like that's just how the whole league viewed it. Like if Lass is like they're good players around him, but like Lass was the win con, right? Like if
Yeah,
Lass if
absolutely.
Lass was in a good spot, he could maybe carry them, but like and then like me, Vote Dardez, we were on like super like late game team fight based teams, and then Mike was just like the aggressive guy, that's how he was viewed. But like he especially wanted to shift to more our side. He was like, yeah, I'm tired of this like all run it down style. Like I want to do like I want to be like really good at team fighting and like playing the map and like being like really flexible and stuff like that. And then it was just trying to mesh everything together, and like it took a while for it to all click. Uh, like me and Les were like shaky for a little bit, but me and him talked a lot outside of the game on like how we should approach scrims and like what we need to like actually work on and like how to talk to each other, because like that's the biggest thing. Like a lot of people don't talk to each other well enough to improve. Uh, like you just expect your teammate to do something, but if they're not used to it, then how's it gonna work? So like me and him didn't have any issues like after a certain amount of time. Like we were just like pretty much on the same page for majority of the year, and then him, Vote, and Mike had a lot of clashing though, because how the dual lane was played, like Les had a lot of opinions on that. Like he was a big believer in like the Ola run and like the full pressure and stuff like that, and then Mike and Vote were like, no, we're just gonna pick fight and we'll just beat them. You just need to be there, and like so there was like hours of arguing over like how the game should be perceived like around duo lane, but that stuff never really clicked. Like that was always there until even like Coast came in. Um, but yeah, I think that Mike was definitely the biggest change from my point of view of like any teammate I've gotten, because as much as like I've played with some incredible supports, like I had Raf and then Neil into Mike. Like I have 3 world champion supports who have achieved everything in the game, but they will like the other two were so different to Mike. Like Mike was a lot more like authoritative and like very clearly knew what he wanted to do and was like demanding, but in a good way of like if you're being really lazy with rotations or like slow out of base or like you're not listening to a comm well enough, like he would bring it up and like he would make sure that everyone's like drilled into this mindset of like don't be lazy, like be proactive, like don't make him ask you something, like already give him the info, you know, like it was a lot more faster paced and it took a while for us to get used to it. I think we weren't even perfect for it by worlds, but I think just being on stage and like having that energy just fixed all of it magically. But like yeah, I think for me it was probably the year I learned the most out of any year just because of Mike. Like his perspective on the game was completely different to anything I had learned. So
Really?
it was just super fun. Like even just hearing him like go over like stuff that didn't even concern me in a game. It was just interesting because like I'd never seen that side of the game in a way. So yeah, I just had a lot of fun in that aspect.
Yeah, actually, like I respect this like conversation a lot because now I'm super happy you guys won because of all the work that you put into it. Just like hearing you talk about it, you know, it extended out more than just scrims, and that's what I like
Yeah,
really appreciate. Was there a rival team that you guys had like the entire year? Say for example, if you had a choice to scrim amongst like any team that you wanted to
yeah.
scrim, it's like okay, we're gonna choose these guys because we learned the most playing them. They give us the most competition. Was there any team like that for you guys?
So the team we respected the most and like viewed as the best team, like obviously if we were saying other than ourselves, was the Ferryman. Like they were the team that we could learn the most from. But they were also the team we loved our matchup into the most, like because they would always take the game late, and we just thought we were better at team fights, obviously. So I wouldn't say they were our rival, but they kind of ended up being that because we played them like every event, and
Yeah.
like it was either like a super close loss or we'd like edge out a win somehow most of the time. So like I guess maybe in the back of our minds it was like a bit of a rivalry. But when it came down to scrimming, like we never scrimmed them. We scrimmed them maybe 8 times total the year. I think like looking through my vods the other day. It's just like we always knew we'd be on the same side of the bracket or stuff like that, so we just never really played them.
Yeah, makes sense.
Um, which maybe ended up being a good thing because like I feel like when it came to Worlds, like they ran out of ideas on us quicker than we ran out of ideas on them, like in terms of how to play the game creatively. The teams we scrimmed the most were definitely Warriors or Levi's, which I think ended up being great for us because they were teams that would force us to be better at early game and like make less mistakes, and just be less lazy. Like those teams, even if they're not tryharding scrims, like the Warriors, for example, like they'll still just they'll still just beat you up every scrim if you're like being lazy or like making
Yeah.
mistakes and stuff. So like it kind of just makes you wake up and snap out of it whenever like you did have a good scrim session with those guys, and they would just like keep you fresh mechanically as well more than other teams, just because they were like really talented players. So but yeah, rivalry wise, I guess I would say Ferryman, even though like it wasn't like I hate those guys. Like they're all great and like have a lot of respect for them.
Yeah, it's the respect aspect is why they're your rivals.
Yeah, for sure.
So before you got into the SPL, just like improving as a player, what do you think got you to the skill level that you're currently at today? Like, how did you improve over the course, of however many years, even like prior to SPL
Yeah.
experience, just as an
So
individual?
it was like it was a really weird process because like it was never the goal to like even play ranked or anything like that. Like I was always like a very casual gamer on like console and stuff, and then like 2011, 2012, I got a PC and like I would just play with like a few friends. Like at first we played a bunch of Arma 2. Like I don't know if you've ever played that, but like we would play like Daisy mod, like thousands of hours of that.
Yeah.
And then one of my friends was just like, "Yeah, I have this new game we can try called Smite," and like took me a while to like the game because it was just so different. Like I would play like COD, FIFA, like Battlefield. Like I was just like the very generic gamer, I guess. And then
Yeah.
like yeah, eventually I was just like doing really well. Like I was just having a good time. It was new, it was fun. I loved the aspect of just like constantly learning something new in a MOBA. Um, I think just like over time, it got to a point where I was like, I had one other friend in that group who was also wanting to play ranked, and I was like, yeah, let's just play ranked, see how it goes. And we would like slowly climb up gold, plat, diamond, and we're doing really well. And then it got to a point where like I was just like able to climb like way quicker than he was, and like I guess this like I just naturally, not naturally, but like I just got to a point where I understood the game a lot, and I just loved it and enjoyed it and had a good time, and that was a big factor. And it just got to a point where I was just in lobbies with like Suntouch at the time, who was like the main EU streamer, and that's where it all stemmed from. Like, then he'd invite me to like in houses, and then I'd be like in call with all these other people who have already been pro for like years, and it's like it's a whole new side to gaming where like I wasn't introduced to. And at the time, I was just at school, and I like, luckily enough, I didn't have to work at the time. Like, I was fortunate enough to just be able to go to school and then just play games like in my free time. So I was like, yeah, why not? Like, and if something comes from it, it could be cool. But it was never meant to be like a full-time thing because I was always gonna go to like uni and stuff like that. But then I got to a point where I was just like constantly getting better and like getting into the scene, and then eventually got like tryouts and stuff like that, to where I was like, I should put some time into this because it's something unique and a life experience that not many people get. So why would I do like the generic like go to school, study and stuff when I could do something I'm passionate about or like
Right.
have fun in, or like who doesn't want to play like a video game for a living, you know? Like
Right, right.
so for me a lot of it was just passion, as cheesy as it is. Like I wasn't really chasing the money or anything from it or like stuff like that. It was just I just get to play a game that I've been loving for multiple years at a high level. And yeah, just over the years, it was a lot of learning, especially because I always teamed with people who were like more experienced. It was Badger at first and Cherry, and then it was like Cherry, Jermaine, Dardez. Like all these players I was around were like vet, not veterans at the time, but like they had experience and stuff like that. So I was always learning and studying and like maturing over the time because I was like 15 when I went pro, so I was a kid. Like so
Wow.
like it was like
Yeah.
I was definitely like whiny and like moody compared to like how I am now. But I mean, I don't think I was ever like bad enough. Like I never got kicked or anything, so like I guess I wasn't that bad. So
You're like
yeah,
the
just
coolest 15-year-old around.
it was just yeah, like to go back to your question, or like what like was the main thing like pushing me or like helping me improve. A lot of it was just putting time into the game and like enjoying it. I think one difference between like the top players and the just like the good, like the average pro, is like they just enjoy the game and they put hundreds of hours into it a week, like or a month, whatever. Like I can play ranked endlessly and have a good time. Like I can scrim as much, like I can double scrim. I'm not gonna complain. It's just fun. Um, the moment you start getting complacent and the moment you don't enjoy the actual game is when you kind of like hit a plateau as a player, I think. So for me, it's just been a decade of genuinely enjoying the game and wanting to improve and having a goal to chase. And yeah, not much more to it. And also just the players I've been around have been so fun and like great at the game as well. So I've always had like people by my side that want the same goal, and it's just fun to win with them as well.
Yeah, I think it also goes back to when you were teaming with, Cherry and all them. It's kind of
Yeah.
like teaming with. Did you consider them to be better than you at the time?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I was like in hindsight, like I was I actually had a I think I had a really good rookie year. Like a lot of people in EU was saying I should have won rookie of the year over Oceans, if I remember at the time. But like I was really happy with my like debut year and stuff. But I I definitely wasn't good. Like like if I played against like at the time it was NRG and stuff. So like if I played against like NRG, like I'd get exposed. You know, like I've been playing for like a year, bro. Like these guys are better than me. It's like what am I meant to do? So I think just the for me it's been a very like steady evolution and growth as a player. Like every year I've gotten better, and for me that was really rewarding. Even if I like didn't win worlds and stuff, like any splits we'd win or like another tournament or just like any big game against a top team, it's like you can always like track your improvement, and that's definitely really motivating as well.
Yeah, it's kind of like sort of for people that maybe have that ego. I mean, everybody has an ego to a certain extent. I
Yeah,
think
for
you need
sure.
to compete,
Yeah.
but like kind of putting that ego aside and teaming with players that you know are better than you, so you can learn
Yeah.
and improve from those players, and then hopefully surpass them, and then keep climbing up. And as you said,
Yeah,
you
for
know, it's
sure.
a steady increase, right? So it's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah,
It
definitely
takes
not.
time.
Yeah, I mean,
When Mhm.
oh, go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just gonna ask when you were trying to get better. So when you reached the point to where you're like, okay, like I can actually start putting some more time into this game because I want to see what I can do. Were you doing anything like watching YouTube guides, watching like Twitch players, like maybe players in the solo
Yeah,
lane
yeah, I
role?
would watch Twitch, but like I would not watch solo laners. I would watch like Zap. Like I've been watching Zap for a decade. Like I remember his old stream where he'd have like the Gunna glasses on and like the EDM playlist, like just jamming out. Like I would watch him, Lassus, Toli, Suntouch a lot as well, and then like Omega wouldn't stream as much, but I'd watch him a little bit, and like Barracuda as well. Just like I'd watch everyone a little bit, and like you do pick up from those players too. But like a lot of the improvement comes down from just playing against those players. And in EU, I was lucky enough to have like a really stacked region at the time. Like it was like NRG, which obviously the goats of the game, and then you have like Trix, Fred, Zeros, like Lob at the time. Just there's just so many players like Zalio as well was like really good at that time. So many players to improve on who have like they're all better than you, but you have so many markers to hit. Like I can be better than this guy. It just takes time, and like I think at the end of my career I've achieved it. Like I would say that I did get to a point where I would put myself above like pretty much all of those players. So like that's really rewarding. Like as a grind over the years.
Did you ever have like when you made the decision, okay, I want to try to go pro, get picked up by a team? Did you ever have that support from your family?
Yeah,
Did they help push you?
yeah. From literally day one of like the moment I told them that like I can make money from this and like it is something I want to do. It was just like go for it. Like it's a unique experience, and I think especially when I got to a point where I could like go to a LAN or something, which it was pretty early on. It was like season 3, super regionals. Like was the first LAN I could go to, and we qualified. I was like 16. Didn't like had to like speed run a visa. Like almost didn't get it. It was like the day, like 2 days before we flew, I got it. I think so. It was like really close call, but the whole time I was like super supported, and they never had an issue like with me moving here for like the last few years. Like obviously it sucked with COVID. I couldn't go back home or anything for
Yeah.
like 3 years, but it's just full support. They always believed in me. Like my dad watched like every SPL game the last few years that I played. Like they they both watched Worlds and stuff like that. It's just super and like it's just so nice to have that backing, and like I don't have to worry about like oh maybe they're disappointed I didn't go to school or something like that, because it's not like that at all. They're like super proud of me, and even now like they don't care there's no SPL. That they're telling me to like just pursue streaming, and like it's going so well, and wait for Smite 2. Maybe you're gonna play there as well. It's like it's almost like they're telling me to do this as much as I
Yeah.
want to do it. So it's always been super nice to have that support.
Yeah, I mean, I think it creates a healthy mindset,
Yeah, for sure.
and I feel like, yeah, I feel like just having support all around for whatever you do is a really really good
Yeah,
thing.
it
So
carries you, 100%.
yeah. Speaking of streaming, like, are you still as passionate about the game despite there not being an SPL currently? Like, being able to stream it and stuff like that.
It's really like some days it's like I go into every day, yes, I am that passionate, but then it's like in EU, man, it is bad.
Yeah, I saw you on the
It's
NA queues. I'm like, yo, what
bad.
happened over there?
Well, I was gonna play Bobby's tournament because like
Oh, okay,
he
yeah.
was hosting one, but it got cancelled sadly. Like that brought like the idea of playing a tournament got me so hyped. I was like, I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
care about paying. Like this is gonna be so fun. And then the moment I found out it was cancelled, and I went back to EU, it just like crushed me. I'm still passionate. Like I can play the game every day for like hours and like not complain. Well, I'll complain, but like
In the
I'll
moment complaining. Yeah.
yeah, I'm not gonna be like this game's unplayable. Like I hate this. Like I always enjoy Smite, even if I think the player base is what's holding it back right now. I think the game actually is fun, but just not enough people are playing it, obviously, because it's like the end of the life cycle. But like, yeah, I'm still passionate. I enjoy the patch notes and stuff like that. I'm always like looking for new stuff to play on stream. But I think right now I'm just in a bit of a waiting room. Like I really want to just get going with Smite 2. Like the moment that 24/7 beta hits, like I really hope there's ranked so I can just like play every day and grind. Cause I'm definitely like running out of steam with Smite 1, but it's still like in a healthy way. Like I'm not like miserable when I wake up and queue, like
Yeah.
it's still solid for the most part, but I think I'll always have that passion for the game, like whatever happens.
Yeah. Dude, I was actually also upset that Bobby's tourney got canceled. He hit me up, he's like, yo, Dash, can you be a captain? I was like, nah, I can't, sorry. He's like, oh, okay. And then like 2 hours later, yo, we can't do the tournament. I was like, I hope that wasn't because of what I said.
No, I said I was gonna be a captain. I was hyped. I was like, I
Yeah.
was ready to do my draft, and then I opened Twitter and I see it's canceled. I'm like, I was disappointed in every because so many people would be like, we need another Bobby tournament to like revive the game, and then it's like he's doing another one. Where is everyone? Why is no one committed now all of a sudden? So yeah, that sucked. But hopefully he'll do some Smite 2 ones as well when that
Yeah, I
kicks
mean,
off.
the beta is what, supposed to be in a like month or two, maybe?
End of July, 30th of July is meant to be the 24/7 closed beta.
Dude, I'm
So I
excited.
mean, yeah, I mean that should really kick off everything, right? Like, I hope there's some form of ranked. Like, I just want to be able to queue and see my number go up and like actually get good lobbies because like no way there's gonna be in houses every day. Like, Smite players just aren't committed enough.
Yeah. Or even just like maybe some high res ran
Weeklies, yeah,
online, yeah, like weekly tournaments
I
or
think
something
they
like that
should
for
for sure.
yeah, that would be awesome. That would be a great way to kickstart Smite too.
Yeah.
Uh, is there a mistake at all that you see soul laners make time and time again that you think could be improved on? Like if you're gonna give a tip out there to soul laners.
Mm, probably probably not taking enough risks in the early lane. I think a lot of solo laners like they don't really identify like what's gonna make the difference between like a kill or like an advantage in lane. Like a lot of it's very like cookie cutter. Like you just show up the wave, you clear it, you do Q, clear the next wave. But like there's a lot of opportunities to like get a kill or a massive health trade. Like it's just all about taking risks and knowing when to take them and just knowing how to push a lead like out of nothing pretty much that a lot of people miss out on.
Gotcha. You hear that, soul laners? That's how you get better. for for teammates, obviously you team with a lot of people,
Yeah,
Vote and Dardez being, the two
long
that you
time.
probably team with the most. Was there ever a teammate that you had that pushed you to play better and change your perspective of the game overall? Like that really like just pushed you time and time again.
Yeah, I think a lot of teammates did that for me. Pretty much every iteration of the team I was on, like there was at least one player who did that for me. But I do think it was Mike again more than anyone
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
really like who really just like in the best way possible like forced us to change and like improve as players and just like kind of get a new perspective on the game that none of our teams have had before. And it's not like we didn't give him a different perspective either, because I think he really wanted a team that was a separate style. But for us, it was just really cool, like getting that more NA style and like good tempo and like being super proactive and stuff like that. Like trying to master that kind of style for Worlds was really fun.
Yeah, it's actually funny that you mentioned that, you guys kind of like to play a little bit more passively while Mike kind of want a little bit more aggression.
Mm,
Because typically that's how you see like EU and NA, like EU is
yeah.
typically more passive. And it's not just Smite either. Like I've noticed this in
Mm.
FPS games and all that. Like EU is more passive, NA is just way more aggressive.
Which is weird because Mike, like, he actually didn't really. It didn't feel like I was playing with like a early game pressure bot, like, because he was
Really?
so he was the same. He was really open to change, and he really wanted to get good at being like a team fighting team and like a good map play team instead of just like we win in the first 10 minutes or else like because that's just not sustainable
Right,
in
right,
like
right.
every meta. So that's why like some of the games at Worlds, like I think the game one against Warriors was like the slowest game we've ever played, but it was like a slow, meticulous win. Like if those ones feel good too.
Wait, was it I think it was season 9. It was probably one of the slowest games I've ever watched. Was that with the Oni Warriors? Like, was that with you guys versus maybe the Titans? It was like a 2-3 kill game. Everybody was complaining.
I think we did we had a lot of long games, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like on the Warriors, a lot of it wasn't because we intended it to. We were just not good enough to like do other stuff. Honestly,
Uh, so you've obviously been competing for a lot of years. You have to have some rivals, or at least a rival in Soul Lane. Who is that rival?
I don't know. I don't really think I'd say anyone's like a straight up rival. But the players I've played against the most are definitely Variety. I've played against the most for sure because I was playing against them in season 3 all the way up until season 10. Um, but I wouldn't like we like we're on good terms. Like I don't have
Right,
any
right.
like
Yeah.
bad like rivalries and stuff. But I'd say like him, Deathwalker, and probably Final K and Benji, like from NA. Like those 4 players, always played against them pretty much my whole life, and it was just really cool. Like competing with them, even if like I was on a worse team or if they were on a worse team, like at the time, it was just always fun like playing against those 4 players specifically because it always felt like they would push you to your limits and like it would just give you a really good learning experience against those 4.
Out of like those four, was there one in particular that you were just like, okay, this guy is just way like this guy is hard to beat? Or I mean, obviously, you want to think of yourself
Mm.
above everybody else. That's the mindset you need to have. But was there one that just gave you the most trouble?
Mm,
Maybe it was
probably
like playstyle.
probably Benji, but not because like I didn't think he was like straight up better than me, but he was just so like solid, you know, like he wouldn't mess up like other players, like he wouldn't open himself up to like bad trades or like he'd always be in a solid matchup and like he just knew how to like punish you as well if you messed up like better than most people. I think it's those players that are the hardest, the ones that don't even like give you a chance to like beat them in a lot of games. So probably him.
Do you think you'd still be? I mean, you probably would be, but do you think you'd still be competing if it weren't for the friends that you made on the Oni Warriors? Like, obviously, you were team with Vote Dardez for a very,
Mm.
very long time. I know you guys dropped Vote, but you still had Dardez. Even like prior to that, because you had been playing with them for so long, do you think that you would have still kept going even if you
Yeah,
split up with every single person?
yeah, for sure. Like those years where I was nearly on other teams as well. I think maybe the only like half regret I'd have is season 8. Um, the like the Leviathans when they kicked Julio, they asked me to join at the time, and like that's probably the only like team experience that I feel like I missed out on because I was like ever since the Sanguine Boys got into the league, like I just had a lot of respect for them, and it was mutual from like them to me. I thought they were really good players, and I had a lot of fun like playing with them in ranked and stuff, and hanging out with them like outside of game, like just at like parties or anything. And like I think it would have been really fun teaming with them, and I think we would have won worlds together because at that time I thought I was playing insanely well, and other than Julio, like all 4 of them were like owning that split. But Julio was on ping, obviously, so it was a little scuffed for him, but.
Yeah.
I think there's always going to be people that you want to play with, even if it's not the ones you're used to. So for me, it was like I would have ended up on a team I loved anyway, and just made like new connections and new friends and like people I wanted to win with. And I think the Levi's choice was probably the one I would wanted to explore the most, like out of all the teams I could have been on.
And so you kind of like semi answered this earlier, but to ask in a more concrete way, would you change anything about your life? Like, do you have any opportunities in the past that you missed besides, the Leviathans that you're just talking about,
Mm.
but like just in like life in general too, that you wish you could just go back and grab? Or
I think for me, it actually is just to start streaming sooner. Like, I took way too long to like get into it. I was just always like really on the fence of like, would I enjoy it? Like, would it be worth it? Like, can I actually like get to a point where like people want to watch me every day and like I look forward to streaming it? And as soon as I committed to it during COVID, I was like, I'm an idiot for not streaming like from season 3 onwards.
Mhm.
Um, I'm still really happy with how everything's gone over the years. I think I've had like some incredible moments in streaming, and also playing. I don't have any regrets in my competitive career, just other than maybe teaming with Levi's. But even then, like that was like a half regret, I guess, because I still enjoyed the whole year and the process with the Warriors. So yeah, I just try not to have too many regrets because at the end of the day, it's like it's just gonna put you in a bad mood if you feel like you missed out on stuff when I should just be focusing what's in front of me, and right now it's Smite 2, so I'm looking forward to just whatever the future brings for everyone in the scene.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Uh, my last question for you, Nika, is: do you have any advice for anyone aspiring to be a pro player? Like anyone that wants to start competing, maybe in Smite 2 or just like in general. Do you have any advice from them for them?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is to just stay true to yourself. Don't try and put on a character to make players like better players happy. Like just be yourself and focus on your own improvement. Don't really care about what other players are saying to you or like shit talking you or like anything like that. Just try and be a good teammate. Try and be a good player. Focus on improving and just work with people. Like relationships. Like people call it friends league and stuff, but in any line of work, the people you're teaming with or playing against or in a league with in terms of management, you need to be able to get along with those people, and you need to be able to actually come across as like a decent individual for them to even like want to do stuff with you or for you, So just be kind to people, and at the end of the day, just make sure you're having fun. It is the biggest deal. If you don't have a good time, then you shouldn't pursue it, right? Like you shouldn't force yourself to play thousands of hours of a game to go pro if you don't even enjoy those. So
Right.
yeah, just be a good individual person and focus on yourself and have a good time.
Yeah, definitely. It all starts off with rank, guys. Nika, you got to be
True,
like one
that
of
is true.
yeah.
I've played like 20,000 ranked games probably in my life at this point. You got to get those games in for sure.
Yeah, I mean, dude, you got to be like one of the most level-headed players I've seen in ranked. Even like when I'm getting mad, I'm just like watching you over there. I'm like, dude, this guy's so level-headed. Like, how? What's going on?
I break like once every 100 games maybe, but like it's pretty good for now. Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. Well, listen, man, thank you so much for taking the time to do this with me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
I
it
know
was
other
fun.
people do as
I
well.
loved it, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. Hopefully we can do another one in the future. Smite 2 later down the line, some
Yeah, I'd
more
be
Pro
down.
League stuff. Yeah, another world win, hit me up. But yeah, thank you so much, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
thank you, man.